This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW. Written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 676, part 2, entitled The Surge of Female Masculists, the Next Gender Political Steps. Carrying straight on. Millions of women over the next year or so will either be dumped by their biconscious masculist boyfriends or will continue to be totally ignored by the several million MGTOWs that now exist, so that there will be an army of dumped and ignored women in society who are left licking their wounds after being severely mauled by their biconscious masculist boyfriends or left rotting on the shelf by MGTOWs and falling into depression as they truly come to terms with the idea that they are not going to have a man in their lives, so no love, no sex, no baby, no male companionship, so that they face a manless future for the rest of their lives, and that prospect scares them shitless. Research shows that the most miserable group in modern Western countries are professional women in their 40s who are manless and childless, so feel bitter since they feel that life has passed them by, as it has. Millions of young women are now waking up to this male-imposed reality, imposed by MGTOWs and Masculists, that women are forced to come to terms with, forcing millions of young women now to question their monoconscious feminist brainwashing that is causing them to be repulsive to men. Men don't want relationships with misandrous, male-dumping, feminazi cunts and vote with their feet, preferring, especially if they are masculists, women who are snurfs, that's N-U-R-F-S, which is slim, nutritive, fips, and leave the MFBs, that's monoconscious feminazi bigots, rotting on the shelf, spat at, and punished to extinction, removing their misandrous genes from the gene pool. So with so many women now rotting on the shelf, it's not surprising that we are seeing the development of the next phase in gender politics. That is the rise of female masculists, who are arguing that, quote, and in female voice,
what the Masculists and MGTOWs are saying about monoconscious feminist women is true, and that indeed such women are repulsive to men.
End quote. These female masculist women want to have a relationship with a man, to have a male companion to care for and to be cared for decades of their lives, so are motivated to accommodate men, gender politically conscious men, to please these men, so that these men will be more motivated to have relationships with these women. As millions of young women with their own eyes or experience themselves rejection by biconscious masculisted men of monoconscious feminist women, then these women will be powerfully motivated to become biconscious themselves. Since most modern women have already been influenced by feminist ideas, this acquisition of masculist ideas will make them, by definition, biconscious, thus teaching them that gender oppression is a two-way street and that their feminist anger at men for the ways that men oppress women will be cancelled by their female masculist anger at women for the ways that women oppress men. This cancelling will make these biconscious feminist women a lot nicer to be with for men, so that men will be more motivated to approach them and have relationships with them. But these men will not marry them and will not have kids with them until, underlined, the gender laws are menfaired, the divorce courts are thoroughly reformed, etc. But that is not going to happen without deep structural changes in society that the masculist theorists, such as myself, are pushing politically so hard for. These biconscious masculists, who are now choosing to have relationships with biconscious feminists, will push these women to vote with men for the menfairing of the gender laws, to fundamentally restructure society so that men are no longer legally butchered in the divorce courts, no longer manslaved, no longer forced into unwanted fatherhood, etc. So biconscious masculists will be twisting the arms of their biconscious feminist girlfriends to help men restructure society by pushing for the creation of GECs, gender equality committees, in the parliaments that consist half of female feminists and half of male masculists, so that the gender issues of both sexes are treated equally. With millions of biconscious feminists persuaded by their biconscious masculist boyfriends to vote for the menfairing of the gender laws, the gender politicians in the GECs will be forced to listen, or they will be voted out of power. As masculist ideas spread through the culture, most men will vote for the menfairing of the gender laws. If, say, half of women, biconscious feminist women, also vote for the menfairing of the gender laws, in brackets, so that men are more prepared to be fathers again, close brackets, then when 60% of voters, male and female, vote for the menfairing of the gender laws, then it will happen. We will see the masculist GEC politicians push for the creation of a FIP society by the fipping of women, for fundamental reform of the divorce courts that will be based on the principle of financial independence of both divorcing parties, since in a FIP society women will be FIPs, in brackets, unlike today, where the manosphere estimates that about 80% of young women choose to become fluffy crappers, choosing to study fluffy crap majors that the economy does not value, thus making them fluffies as adults, and hence wanting to parasite off the money and labour of a man for decades of his life, which in a masculisted world will result in these fluffy women being exterminated slowly, rotting on the shelf, dying slow, miserable deaths. The GECs will push for the legislation of the PARA, that's paternity rejection right, and the OPTAB, OPTAB, obligatory paternity testing at birth, for all births, to combat women's hated paternity fraud, close brackets, so that men are no longer forced into undesired paternity, so that men are given the same right to reject parenthood as women already have. For masculists, the fact that women have the MARA, but men don't have the PARA, causes masculists to scream out their sense of burning legal injustice against men, causing masculists to hate women who commit such horrible gender crimes as forced fathering. Once the GECs are established and they do their work, we will live in a transformed world of true gender equality. Young mothers will be given a hefty maternity wage while their kids are pre-kindergarten, so that women can be both FIPs and mothers, to prevent whole populations dying out due to the population crash caused by young men, 70% of them, and growing, utterly rejecting paternity due to the toxicity of the divorce courts, controlled by the hated, monoconscious, fluffy feminist divorce court lawyers and judges. So with many women being biconscious, monoconscious feminism will die out, being seen as bigoted, ignorant, callous towards men, and universally rejected, a historical relic. Hopefully, both sexes will then be able to live in a happier world, a biconscious world, with equal rights and equal obligations for both sexes. Cheers, Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. In brackets, click on the Masculist tab for 670 plus Masculist essays and their videos. See also a London Real interview on masculism at AI will kill 1 billion people, do we create our exterminators, ? Professor Hugo de Garis, London Real, in brackets. See the last half hour of this 2-hour interview for the Masculist segment. These flyers are available in text and video formats on Minds, BitChute, Odyssey, MGTOW.tv and X. Ciao.